Hello, everyone. Hello to all of our students and listeners. I would love to welcome Fady today. He's here from Capgemini. Thank you so much for being here today, Fady.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Lovely to have you. And thank you for kind of coming in. I know your team has been here before, and so we really appreciate the kind of repeated support for our students.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. Firstly, I was going to say, I think you and I chatted off the air, but last time we were here, we did have a chance to hire 2 UTM students. We're very happy with them too, so definitely an easy way to come back, and thanks for having us back as well.
Amazing. No, that's great to know. It's great to hear some success stories because there's so many employers and so many students. So for those of you listening, look at companies, they're actually hiring. So
Exactly. We're a testament. We're here, so come check us out.
Always good to know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess I'll dive into the questions that I have for you today.
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you. So the first question I have is, what do you value the most in your initial interactions with students or recent graduates at these fairs?
Yeah, so that's a great question because obviously when you're at career fairs, you meet a ton of people, upwards of 100 people, I would say, interactions. So the way that certain folks stand out, I would say, is coming in well researched. So that's one thing I would say is important when you're coming into a career fair with so many different employers, and especially when they span over different industries, to understand, this is the employer, this is what they do. I've looked you up before. You don't need to be an expert. That's the whole point of the conversation. You come in and you ask questions and ask for more information, but I would say at least have an understanding of the industry that you're dealing with or what kind of roles that we have. I'll honestly, candidly, some people will walk up to us and say, "Who are you?" And I don't mind, I'll answer the question, but that is not, I would say, an interaction that stands out. Yeah. But somebody who comes in and says, "Hey, you're that company that does X, Y, Z, and I looked you up before," right off the bat, I know that this person's engaged and they're very serious about what they want. So
for sure. I think that there's a lot of students probably coming up to you saying, "What are you doing? What are you hiring for? And what is the company?" But so I'm sure that the few that do come with that research definitely would stand out, I would assume.
Certainly.
Yeah, amazing. And then I guess in terms of in those interactions with students, how important would you say a student's elevator pitch is to you? And if it is important, would you mind sharing an example?
So I kind of love this question because I started out my career in campus recruiting. So I did a lot of campus recruiting. I have a lot of experience in this, but I am not an elevator pitch person at all. So I personally actually don't love them personally. I know some recruiters do like them, so I wouldn't say that there's one that stood out to me, just because it's a thing in my mind that it just sounds very scripted to me.
Right.
So elevator pitches for me personally is not my go-to. I would say focus more on asking direct questions. So a lot of times we come in with a set of questions that we put together beforehand, which I understand it's in preparation. You're helping deal with your nerves. You don't want to be, clueless when you're at the career fair. However, not every question is applicable to every company or every person. So I would say make sure you're asking pointed questions, direct, relevant questions. And honestly, you know what? I don't know if this is considered an elevator pitch, but a lot of people forget to say hi. They forget to say how are you. They forget to say, how's your day? How's the small talk, I would say in the beginning. Yeah. That stands out more to me than a scripted elevator pitch. But if you consider that an elevator pitch, then I would say that that's my go-to. Like a greeting or a more personable type greeting.
No, for sure. I wouldn't count that as an elevator pitch.
I didn't think so either. Yeah.
I think that's just basic conversation etiquette. So students, please make sure you're following them when you're talking to employers.
And I don't mean to say that they're like awful, no etiquette or anything like that. I understand the nerves with this, so I would say just keep in mind that the people across from you are human beings as well. And although we don't have the nerves, obviously we're in a different position. We understand that you do, but just keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. And from what you're saying, it sounds like be comfortable, be yourself.
For sure.
And don't come scripted. Be
researched. I mean, you can come scripted, but make sure you pick and choose when you use your script.
Yeah. Awesome, for sure. Awesome. And so in terms of those students standing out, what is something a student can do to stand out and become memorable to you at the fair?
Yeah, so like I was saying, kind of piggybacking off of the research and stuff, I do really enjoy when people understand what we do and know what they want especially. I understand it's hard when you're in your first or second year, but if we're speaking to somebody in their, maybe fourth year or sometimes their fifth year, we want to understand that you know what you want, that this is what I want to do in my career, this is my next step, this is what I want to focus on, and then that way we can kind of walk you in that direction. And then obviously the pointed questions and the relevance as well, because as a recruiter, as somebody who's interviewed people, as somebody who's chatted with many people, it's very easy to tell when questions are. I'd say a lot of people try to ask the trick questions or the cool questions, or like, oh, let me ask this in-depth question, but we can tell when it's not a real genuine question. So just make sure that you're asking pointed questions relevant to what you want, and that you understand that, we can probably decipher between that a little better than you think, but yeah.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from a lot of your answers is just to be genuine, be knowledgeable, but be genuine.
That's my approach. Maybe, there's other recruiters or other folks or professionals that operate differently, but me personally, when I'm trying to get to know you, I just want to understand what you're like and just converse with you and understand what you want and what you aspire to do in your career.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. I think it's probably easier for a lot of students than learning a whole elevator pitch.
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Awesome. And in terms of the next steps after this job fair, does your company use any technology in their screening process, such as applicant tracking systems or LinkedIn Recruiter? And if so, how can students stand out in them?
Yeah, so I would say we do use LinkedIn Recruiter, but I wouldn't say that we rely too much on AI or any tech like that in terms of the screening. So in terms of your LinkedIn profile, just make sure everything's up to date. A lot of times, so given that we're in the consulting space for tech, we do hire a lot of people who are in computer science or software engineering or that kind of space. So really be concise about the skills that you have. Which tech stacks do you know? Which languages are you comfortable with? What experiences do you have? So really lay out your experiences, whether it's with employers. A lot of people think that, I worked with the school, I did this with the club, maybe it's not worth putting on my resume. I disagree, especially for a campus hire and you're just graduating from school. It really tells us about how you spent your time. So really be concise, not concise, but be clear with your experiences. I would say concise is for the resume, but LinkedIn really put everything on there, your skills, your experiences, and then obviously share things. So a lot of people, I never understood this until I really got into the recruiting space, but using your LinkedIn as a advertiser. This is what I do at work. These are the events I've attended. This is the kind of things I've had the chance to do. So just really use your LinkedIn as like your storytelling profile.
Yeah. I think it's also reassuring for students that hear a lot of, your LinkedIn is important. And so hearing it from someone that actually does the hiring, I think it would be reassuring for them to know it actually is important.
For sure. There's nothing worse than when you're recruiting and you find a good profile that doesn't have a picture or a good profile that's missing an education section or skill section. You're like, oh my gosh, this is not what I was looking for. So absolutely, I would say maintain that.
Yeah, definitely. No, for sure. Important to have a full ready LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And so Fady, what advice would you give to students that are trying to break into this field?
Yeah, so my advice would definitely, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but just be yourself, because I think in this market, that's a very vague thing to say, so I'll just expound on it. But I think in this market, it's really hard to stand out because there's so much good talent, right? Like there's a lot of good talent everywhere you go. You're going to have very intelligent people with great experience, people who've come from different paths in the world. And especially in today's day and age where there's so much diversity in the job market, it is very hard to stand out. So the best way is to just be yourself in your conversations, when you're asking questions, when you're having these discussions with recruiters. The biggest thing is just engage someone in conversation. And when you lock in with a recruiter or with somebody at a booth, that is the best way to be remembered. And obviously when you have recognition of you and I had a conversation and now I'm looking at resumes later in the day and I see your name, that's a name I'm going to remember because we had a memorable conversation. So use these events. I would say really put in an effort to get out to these events. A lot of times when I was a student, I didn't value career fairs. I didn't really go to career fairs till my later years in university. And I always tell students when I'm at these events, like really take advantage of the resources your school is offering. Go to these events, get out there, meet employers, even go. They have it in September and January. Go both times.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay to be here, right? Yeah. You're going to be here anyways. You probably have class. So just come, drop by, see employers, and really be tactical in your approach.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you made an important point when you said that there is a lot of diversity out there, and so it can be hard to stand out. But as you said, that diversity also leads to the fact that there are more unique people out there. And
Absolutely.
So, as you said, just highlighting some of the things that make students unique can really help those interactions and in being themselves as well.
For sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for that insight.
Of course, my pleasure.
And my last question to you is that you were once in the shoes of a lot of students that are here today.
That's right.
What advice would you give to someone that's feeling discouraged in their job search?
Yeah, so my advice a job search is a volume game, right? If you put in as many applications as you can. You're eventually going to get something. And I remember when I was going through because when I did school, I was in a co-op program. So when I was applying for my first term, it was getting pretty late and I was getting really discouraged. But you can't stop yourself from just applying. Just try. Just get out there. Keep trying. Eventually, you're going to get something. You're going to meet somebody. I know it's very discouraging, and I know today's job market is not the best, but at the end of the day, you just have to really keep trying, keep applying, put yourself out there, get in front of get in front of companies, go to career fairs, go to anything that you can imagine putting yourself in front of employers. Really, just keep trying. Don't think of it as don't get offended. It's not it's not anything personal. Like when I'm recruiting and I'm looking through resumes, it's never anything personal. So don't get offended. Don't think it's like oh, they hate me. It's not like that at all. Just put your head down, keep applying, and what's right for you will come around.
No, for sure. I think that's super important, and I think that resilience is really important when it comes to the job search, because it can be super easy to feel like it is personal and it is about your self-worth. And so it's important, I think, for a lot of students, especially for those of you that are graduating and are kind of jumping into that transition. It's a hard transition, and it's okay to, continue going, feel your feelings, but, as Fady said, just keep applying. It is a numbers game. And amazing. That was great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Fady, for joining us today. Super excited to have you and Capgemini back on campus, and thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Appreciate you.